Trust, don't turn around, pull back.
I forgot to read the phone.
My glasses automatically exam. They like they make it harder. Good morning. Sorry.
I'm half live.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry for that.
No, I'm sorry. Here, let's go this way.
Everyone, please stand for the presentation of the colors. Ladies and gentlemen, honored guests, first responders, and members of our community, thank you for joining us today as we gather in this solemn remembrance of tragic events of September 11th, 2001. On this day 24 years ago, our nation faced one of its darkest hours. Thousands of innocent lives were lost, and countless others forever changed. We come together not only to remember, but to honor the memory of those who perished, to recognize the courage of first responders and everyday heroes. and to reflect on the resilience and unity that emerged in the wake of devastation. This memorial is a sacred space where sorrow meets strength and where remembrance becomes a promise to remember. As we move through today's program, may we find comfort in community, strength in shared memories, and inspiration in the stories of bravery and love that still echo through time. Thank you for being here. Your presence ensures that the legacy of 9/11 lives on, not only in memory, but in action, in compassion, and in our unwavering commitment to each other. At this time, I would ask you to stand as we welcome Brock McDonald to honor our nation with the singing of the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed by the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave?
morning. My name is Tatiana Torres, and I am a senior at Elevate Academy, and I will be your master of ceremonies for today's event. Mr. Garrett Nancolis was a mayor of Caldwell, Idaho from 1998 to 2021, serving a 23-year term after his service on the City Council and the Planning and Zoning Commissions. A native Idahoan and a local business owner, his leadership focuses on teamwork, community pride, and visions for growth. Mayor Nancolis was a champion of transportation and land use planning, including significant projects like the Indian Creek Project and the US 2026 widening. He was also a strong advocate for youth civil engagement, establishing the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council, fostering regional cooperation through his leadership on states and national boards. When asking Mr. Nancolis if he would join us today, he said, "I will always show up for the kids of Caldwell and first responders in our community. This has never changed, and we appreciate all he has done." Please welcome to the stage former Mayor Garrett Nancolis.
Please be seated. Good morning. It is humbling and such an honor to be here with you this morning. When I was approached by Matt Strong to have the opportunity to speak here this morning, I didn't know what to say at first because I felt so humbled and honored, and yet, how could I possibly pay the proper respect for the events that happened on this day 24 years ago? But I am so grateful and honored to be here with you, to be in the presence of these wonderful students from Elevate Academy. This is our future. Give yourselves a big hand. It's such an honor to be gathered in this plaza with these beautiful symbols of America hanging about. The greatest banner in the world, the flag of the United States of America, the greatest country on the planet. And we are gathered here today to pay respect and to remember the courage, the dedication, the compassion, the commitment of those brave first responders that were involved in the events of September 11th, 2001. When I was speaking of first responders, there they go. When I was asked to convey some of the thoughts that I had from that day, because it was real, I remember it like it was yesterday. My mind went so many different directions. What could I possibly say that would have meaning and dignify the events of that day? So my mind first went back to 250 years ago. The brave men and women who founded this great nation on courage, dedication, commitment, selflessness, willing to sacrifice themselves for the beliefs that they had in freedom, liberty. That great day that no one remembers other than in the history books. Remember, my friends, and you shall hear of the midnight ride of Paul Revere. On the 18th of April in 75, hardly a man is now alive who remembers that famous day and year. And he said to his friends, if the British march by town or sea from the land tonight, hang a lantern aloft in the belfry arch of the north church tower as a signal light, one if by land and two if by sea, and I on the opposite shore will be ready to ride and spread the alarm through every Middlesex village and farm for the country folk to be up and to arm. You see, those brave men and women ran into danger. They ran towards danger because they were committed to a concept of freedom and liberty. They were dedicated to the well-being of their friends and their families. And that concept is the very fabric with which we live in today. And it has been tested over and over and over again through the centuries since that famous day. But to you and to me, those things were written in history books. We didn't see them. We learned about them. We know they were real. We know that those events happened, and because of that brave commitment to freedom, we are here today. But on that day, that Tuesday morning, September 11th, 2001, that was a day that happened in front of many of us. Many of you weren't alive yet. But this was the first time in my lifetime that I had actually experienced something like that. And it was real. They asked me to talk a little bit about what I remembered from that day. We'd had city council meeting the night before. Normal city council meeting, life was good, everything was going well. I came to City Hall a little earlier, like I normally did, and as I walked in, I was greeted by my assistant, Susan Miller. Immediately I knew something was wrong. I hadn't listened to the radio. I had got up in the morning, kissed my wife goodbye, hugged my children, and thinking work. And she said, Garrett, I've got the TV on, you need to watch what's going on. The nation has been attacked. And what was significant about this is the first time an attack on American soil had happened since that fateful day, December 7th, 1941, when Pearl Harbor was attacked. The first time in 60 years that something had happened on American soil. I walked into the room, and it was so small. There were some employees gathered around. And I watched the replay of an airplane flying into the side of the World Trade Center. This was approximately 8:46, which was when the first event happened, Eastern Time, which would have been 6:46, and they were replaying this event. At 9:03, the second flight crashed into the South Tower, and they were replaying that event. I had a multitude of feelings that I can't even explain. I watched it in absolute horror, disbelief, shock. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And then they talked about another plane crashing into Canada. And more lives were lost. And then they talked about the heroism of Flight 93 as the passengers on that plane took control and intentionally crashed it into the ground so that that plane could not inflict more damage into another building. It was believed that that plane was headed for the White House or some other building in Washington, D.C. Tears streamed down my cheeks as I thought of the tragedy that was happening. And then, at about 10:02, I watched something that I still can't believe as the South Tower collapsed. And the reason I was so shocked and just terrified is this is the time when it really hit me how many people and how many lives were lost. And as I watched the brave men and women of the fire department and emergency services running into the building, people were running towards danger. Brave men and women of the first responders were running towards danger. And then all of a sudden the terror and fear changed to this feeling of pride as I watched these wonderful men and women of the fire department, police department, emergency services running to help others. The selfless sacrifice that they were making at that time, they didn't care about themselves. They only cared about those who were in danger. And because of that bravery, because of that selflessness, because of that dedication, 441 first responders lost their life that day. 441 first responders lost their life that day. 343 firefighters, 1 New York Fire Patrol person, 71 law enforcement, and 8 paramedics lost their lives needlessly. A horrible act of terrorism took the lives. These were mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, husbands, wives, grandfathers, grandmothers. Their entire families' lives changed so dramatically on that day, needlessly. A needless act of hatred and terrorism changed this nation forever on that day. I have the deepest respect for the men and women of our safety services. I know for a fact, because I've seen it, that these same men and women in this community, these same firefighters who are here today, would do the exact same thing if it were required from them. They would run towards danger. They would run into the burning building. And I've seen them do that over the years. They have the same courage, dedication as the brave men and women who founded this country, as the same men and women who have defended the freedoms over the years. These firefighters, police officers, and first responders are cut out of the same cloth, and it was a choice. They have chosen to enter this profession, knowing every day when they come to work that their lives could be in danger. And then a thought came into my mind as I stood there and watched these events, and a moment of self-reflection. Would I have the courage to do the same thing? Would each one of us, as we look in the mirror, have the courage to run towards danger, to put our safety second behind the safety of people that we may not even know? I ask you to go home and look in the mirror and ask yourself that same question. What would we have done? What would we do if that happened today? What choice would we make? Recently, I got a phone call from a neighbor. Garrett, my house is on fire, and I think my son is still trapped inside, and I think through the tears, that's what I heard. So my wife and I jumped in our car and ran over about 3 blocks from where we live. And thank heavens the firefighters were already there. And as I watched these brave firefighters again running towards danger, I was so grateful at what I was witnessing. The courage, the selflessness, the dedication, the love, the compassion. And those are the things that we often hear about and we see as people running towards danger in the safety services to protect others. But then I saw something that even made me more proud. You know, the professionalism that I watched was second to none as they extinguished the fire in this home. But then something happened, like I say, that made me so proud. And that was as these men and personnel of the safety services and emergency services, men and women that were there, the compassion that they showed towards the family who had just lost everything. You see, that's the side of these safety personnel, first responders, that sometimes you don't hear about, that you don't see. Yes, we see the courage, we see the dedication, we see the fearlessness, the selflessness that they have. But these brave men and women are so full of love and compassion for those innocent victims that have just been hurt or lost everything. That's the side of the first responders that I admire so much. And I'm so grateful that I was there to see that. Terrorism and hatred cannot be tolerated. It cannot be accepted. It cannot be excused. Violence can never be tolerated, can never be accepted, can never be excused. A wise man once said, what one generation tolerates, the next generation will accept and embrace. To you, students at Elevate Academy, never tolerate, never accept violence, hatred. Never accept terrorism. It cannot be tolerated in this great nation. And it's you who have the responsibility to make sure that it never becomes commonplace. I'm going to close with, I know many of you have heard it, but I can't not say my favorite poem because it has such deep meaning for me. And it goes like this. An old man going along the highway came at the evening cold and gray to a chasm vast and wide and steep, with waters rolling cold and deep. The old man crossed in the twilight dim. The sullen stream had no fears for him. But he turned when safe on the other side and built a bridge to span the tide. Good friend, said a fellow pilgrim near, you're wasting your strength with building here. Your journey will end with the ending of day. You never again will pass this way. You've crossed this chasm deep and wide. Why build you this bridge at eventide? The builder lifted his old gray head. You see, in the path I have come, he said, there followeth after me today a youth whose feet must pass this way. That chasm that was as naught to me, to that fair-haired youth may a pitfall be. He too must cross in twilight dim. Good friend, I am building this bridge for him. That's our responsibility. That is who we are. That is why we are here, is to be the bridge builders of tomorrow, to make sure that those that pass after us have a safe and healthy and loving and kind and compassionate future, a place where families can thrive, where the youth of tomorrow can succeed without fear, without bullying, that can go into the future and know that that future is bright. That is our responsibility, is to be the bridge builders of tomorrow and to ensure that we leave something better for those that come behind us. It is my hope and prayer that as we remember the events of 2001, September 11th, 2001, that we will not forget. We will not allow the sacrifices of those great men and women to be in vain. To let the example that they set of courage, commitment, to do the right thing at the right time, irregardless of the consequences. We cannot let the sacrifice that they made be forgotten. I'm so grateful for our first responders. I'm grateful for the men and women who created Elevate Academy to have the opportunities that these great youth will have. And I'm so grateful for this great nation. May God bless each and every one of you. May God help us to remember and to have the courage to do the right thing always. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sierra Shippey, and I'm a junior at Elevate Academy. I'm also an explorer for the Caldwell Police Department. Today, as we remember the events of September 11, 2001, our thoughts naturally turn to the horror of that day. The lives lost, the families shattered, the skylines forever changed. But now, there is another chapter to this tragedy, one that unfolded slowly, quietly, and continues even now. Amongst the thousands who responded with courage and urgency, firefighters, police officers, paramedics, and construction workers, many were exposed to a toxic mix of dust, chemical, and debris. These brave individuals, in service of others, unknowingly walked into a health crisis that would haunt them for the years to come. It is with deep sorrow that we remember the 38 victims who did not die in the collapse of the towers, nor in the flames, but from the cancer that rooted in their bodies after the dust had settled. They are not statistics. They are heroes, just like those who perished that day. Their battle was longer, but no less connected to the attacks. Cancer doesn't come with sirens or smoke. It comes in silence, often years later, as a delayed consequence of bravery. These men and women bore their illnesses with the same courage they showed in the aftermath of 9/11. Their deaths are not separate from that tragedy. They are a part of its extended cost. Let us not forget the thousands still living with cancer and other illnesses linked to the toxic exposure of Ground Zero. Their struggle is ongoing, their needs are real, and our responsibility to support them must be unwavering. As we honor all who are lost, whether on that fateful day or in the years that follow, let us renew our commitment to care for the living, to support those still affected, and to follow the soul euphoria of 9/11. Not just the day it happened, but every day since. The following names belong to the members of the New York Fire Department, as well as EMTs and paramedics who bravely served during and after the attacks on September 11, 2001. They stood on the front lines, not only in the face of fire and rubble, but in the toxic aftermath that followed. In the years since, these heroes have passed away due to illnesses directly caused by their exposure during the rescue and recovery efforts at Ground Zero. Their service did not end on that day. It continued in the weeks, months, and years that followed, often at great personal cost. Today, we honor their memory and their sacrifice. Please join me in a moment of silence as we remember these individuals who gave so much in service to others. May we remember, may we honor, may we never forget. Thank you.
New York City Fire Department, Lieutenant James K. Donahue, age 69, never forget.
New York City Fire Department firefighter Thomas W. Anderson Jr., age 61, never forget. New York City Fire Department firefighter Kevin R. Kelly, age 67, never forget. New York City Fire Department firefighter
New York City Fire Department Battalion Chief Christopher Stallone, age 65, never forget.
New York City Fire Department firefighter Chaplain Mary Monroe, age 74, never forget. New York City Fire Department firefighter Joseph Daly, age 70, never forget. New York City Fire Department Captain Luke N. Lynch, age 68, never forget. New York City Fire Department Lieutenant Michael Haynes, age 64, never forget. New York City Fire Department Harold J. Johnson, age 78, never forget.
New York City Fire Department Lieutenant Stephen Asaro, age 59, never forget.
New York City Fire Department Captain Stephen Berry, age 63, never forget. New York City Fire Department William R. Bartholomew, age 64, never forget. New York City Fire Department Robert J. Kelly, age 61, never forget. New York City Fire Department firefighter Michael J. Sioffi, age 61, never forget.
New York City Fire Department Battalion Chief Kevin S. Blake, age 71, never forget.
New York City Fire Department firefighter Frank A. Caputo, age 76, never forget.
New York City Fire Department firefighter Stephen G. Ratch, age 61, never forget.
New York City Fire Department Lieutenant Michael Shanley, age 58, never forget. New York City Fire Department, firefighter Robert B. Fulco, age 73, never forget.
New York City Fire Department Lieutenant Charles J. Maniscalco, age 81, never forget.
New York Fire Department paramedic Andrew J. Andrews, age 56, never forget. New York City Fire Department, Mark Russell Senna, age 60, never forget.
New York City Fire Department, Captain Robert Dillio, age 41, never forget.
New York City Fire Department EMT Hilda Bennett, age 67, never forget. New York City Fire Department Christopher Swansky, age 58, never forget.
And now, for those children who lost their lives on 9/11, Christine Hennessy, the youngest of children killed. 2-year-old Christine from Borough, Massachusetts, was described as a busy toddler who loved going to the playground and helping her dad in the garden. Her parents, Peter and Sue Kim, left their homes in Massachusetts to visit relatives in Los Angeles. After the visit, the family had planned to visit Disneyland with their daughter for a fun trip. Never forget. David Brandhurst, age 3, from Los Angeles. David was a vegetable little toddler who adored Legos and going to the swimming lessons every week. On September 11, David boarded flight 175 on Logan Airport with his father's to return home to Los Angeles following a visit to Cape Cod. Following the tragedy, a park was added in the little boy's memory at the West Hollywood playground that David loved to go to with his dad. On the other words, 5 more minutes, Dad, to mark just how much the toddler enjoys spending time. Never forget. Juliana made for a 4-year-old. Even at just 4 years old, Juliana had a vivid daughter that got her the nickname Mitch by those who knew her well. The youngster who lived in New London, Connecticut, got on the United Airlines flight 175 with her mom Ruth, who made an elaborate plan to take Juliana to Disneyland for a fun getaway. Never forget. Bernard Brown II. Bernard was a student. Bernard was described by his mom as a little boy who lived to go to school. loved him and her mother would tell Dawn, remember your daughter living to be here and never forget.
The last of the 3 children chosen to participate in the trip to study college in California beside National Geographic Society recipients. Ron accompanied Bernard and Angel on the trip over the lifetime. It was the first time I had ever been on a plane. Even though Ron, who was 11, grew up in a dangerous Washington neighborhood, alongside his 2 brothers and 2 sisters, he always made the honor roll at school. His mother, Rashawn, was a single parent who was raising her children with the help of her extended family, and she encouraged her beloved son to always try and be a role model to his siblings. Ron loved reading, playing on the computer, and spending time with his brothers and sisters. Those simply things, such as fluent continues to watch professional wrestling on TV. Never forget.
Please welcome Lisa Richard, Deputy Fire Marshal and Executive Fire Program students at the National Fire Academy. A dedicated leader in the fire service, Lisa focuses on community risk reduction, fire prevention, and code policy. She effectively integrates planning, develop, review, and fire investigation into strategies that enhance operational readiness, firefighter wellness, and long-term community resilience. Through collaborations with developers, engineers, architects, and consensuous agencies, such as NFAP, ICC, and IAAI, Lisa champions smart, adaptable safety solutions while fostering relationships built on trust and shared purpose. As we gather here today to honor the legacy of 9/11, Lisa stands among us committed to leadership that anticipates risks and shapes a future where every layer of public safety flourishes. She believes that true strength lies in prevention, partnership, and our communities to endure. It is my honor to welcome
At the time, I never imagined how closely connected I would one day become for the love of service. To a career dedicated to protecting others, standing alongside members of the fire service and the broader community we serve. What was then a moment of disbelief has since become a lifelong commitment to serve, inspired by the very heroes we are here to remember today. We remember the 343 firefighters who rushed into the towers, many knowing they might not come back. They were not chasing recognition, they were just doing what firefighters do. In his book, Ordinary Heroes, Chief Joseph Pfeiffer, the first FDNY chief on scene, reminds us that those firefighters climbed the stairs fueled only by duty and love for their fellow man. And in that choice, they showed us what extraordinary really means. The courage is not limited to those in uniform. On the planes that morning, passengers and crew faced the unthinkable. On Flight 93, ordinary citizens, mothers, fathers, friends, made the decision to fight back. They knew the likely cost, yet they acted to save countless others. Their bravery reminds us that heroism isn't defined by rank or title. It's defined by action, sacrifice, and love for others. At the 9/11 memorial in New York stands a survivor tree, a pear tree pulled from the rubble, burned, broken, and nearly destroyed. But with care, it was brought back to life and replanted as a living symbol of resilience. Each spring, when the tree blooms, it reminds us that healing is possible, and that strength can rise from even the darkest of days. That is the legacy we're here to honor today. Ordinary people, firefighters, police officers, paramedics, office workers, flight attendants, and passengers, who, when confronted with the unimaginable circumstances, shows extraordinary courage. Remember, this is not only about looking back, it's about carrying that spirit forward. The best way we can honor those that have lost their lives is by living each day with purpose, by strengthening our communities and supporting one another. Out of tragedy came a reminder that we are strongest when we come together, and that each of us carries the capacity for extraordinary acts and ordinary moments. Today, as we close the ceremony, let us remember the lives lost, honor the sacrifices made, and commit ourselves to being the kind of people, leaders, and citizens who lift one another up. Because ordinary people in extraordinary moments change the course of history. May we honor them not only in memory, but in the way we choose to live and serve each day. Thank you.
Thank you once again for coming.
So it's done. Do you want to